Okay. What does Calima say?
Well, let's see. Calima agrees with everything that Mr. Christian said from FEMA. You may like a couple more details. You mentioned the Memorandum of Understanding, and that is specific to the legal delta, which is a geographical area. It has a certain number of reclamation districts in it. The DWR subventions program puts out money for reclamation districts to raise their levies to meet these HMP standards, hazard mitigation plan standards, for their geometry. And once they achieve that, they'll now be eligible in the event there's a flood disaster, or it could be an earthquake, whatever damages the levee, for assistance through FEMA. As John mentioned, once a levee meets PL 8489, it's a project levee, a core levee, and it will remain a core levee and not eligible for FEMA assistance for rehabilitation if it's damaged. Memorandum of Understanding, criteria. Oh, by the way, so the reclamation districts, not all of them have been able to get grants through DWR simply because of money or time to even meet the HMP standards. Therefore, these non-project levies are deficient in meeting even HMP standards. They can become eligible for assistance for FEMA if they do a survey of their entire levee reach and note all of the deficiencies. And there's 5 or 6 major points. It's called an annual maintenance plan. They need to submit to Calima an annual maintenance plan saying half of our levees are project levees and the other half is non-project, doesn't even meet HMP, but here it's 3 inches too low to meet the 100-year elevation for flood event. But as long as we have an annual maintenance plan, we being Calima, the reclamation district itself, and they have their engineers doing this, and they're surveying it, and they're showing any encroachments on it, or they're showing where the geometry, the side slopes aren't at a right ratio. And if they have that in file with us, when a disaster event occurs and they are damaged, then they would then be eligible for FEMA assistance, even though they were deficient in meeting HMP.
Is it possible a reclamation district would file successive yearly deficiency reports and still retain its eligibility without doing any of the things that they've identified?
Well, not exactly. One of the criteria for the first annual maintenance plan that they're going to put in, because they're deficient, they're going to be including as part of that criteria how they do their maintenance, where the deficiency areas are, what their budget is, and how they plan on addressing that deficient area. So the year could go by and they could address all of those issues. But as you probably know, within the delta, some of the levees are subsidence. And so something that met the criteria this particular year might not make it the next year. And FEMA can be fairly strict as far as the elevations. For instance, it could be an inch low in terms of meeting the HMP standard, and that would be a deficiency.
So you're just as bad as the Corps of Engineers, but people haven't figured it out yet? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure I can agree with that statement, sir. On Mr. Hartwig's remarks, that maintenance plan is critically important. Of course, I agree with everything he said, but noting those deficiencies, and if those aren't addressed in a year, then we need to know the priority of risks and why that deficiency might not have been addressed and why they had gone someplace else or worked someplace else or applied their resources to another area. But that's a very critical point, and I appreciate that.
Okay.